Tranquility du Jour, October 8th, 2018. Hello there, this is Kimberly Wilson, and welcome to the 431st edition of Tranquility du Jour. Delighted to be here with you today and excited to share our guest, which is Ange Peets. She is the creator of HOL, and we're going to be discussing the power of essential oils. She's big into them, and it's crazy. You'll hear, but it's amazing the health benefits that she's had from using essential oils. We all know and love probably lavender oil, but it's wonderful to hear about the different oils and blends and ways you can actually work to improve your health through essential oils, or at least the way she has found it. We also talk about her emailing me in 2009. She won this Tranquility contest that I had even forgotten that I had offered. But as I was looking through in preparation for our interview, I found this wonderful email from her where she had submitted these beautiful photos of her in Tranquility pieces and then won a free piece for having submitted those. Now, of course, there's Instagram and all sorts of other ways that you can share and tag versus having to email me your photo. Then the best thing that I also found was this email that she sent that we discussed in the podcast interview, asking for how can she transition into doing something she really loves. And now we look at her and she's built this amazing empire. I'm like blown away with her work and who she is, and she's absolutely adorable. And then we also talk about how to take ownership of your health. So HOL, Ange is just a delight. So you're going to enjoy this interview, I think. But in the interim, I wanted to just share with you a few things. So one, a big thank you to everyone who came out. We had quite a few events, and we have quite a few to come, but we had a few events over the past couple of weekends. So we had brunch at Tranquility last weekend, which was so much fun to have you guys in my therapy office, where I'm hosting things like salons, writing salons, tranquility salons, etc. And it was just a real delight to be able to welcome you guys. And we raised $2,200 for Pigs and Pugs project during that 2-hour adventure. And there's a video that you'll find in the show notes that gives a sneak peek, because I did a Facebook Live kind of right before everyone arrived and shared kind of what the setup looked like. It actually was really cute. It's so funny that you can turn a therapy office into a boutique, a little pop-up boutique. And then there's also a sneak peek video for the Tranquility photo shoot that I did recently that also gives you a little kind of peek into what goes into the photo shoot, because you'll see the model kind of walking back and forth, but also the 6 new designs I did for the season. And lastly, there is a video about Pigs and Pugs projects. Pugs and Pints. There's a lot of alliteration here. Yesterday, we hosted Pugs and Pints, and we had an amazing turnout. We were actually blown away. We raised $871 for pug rescues, and it was so much fun. I mean, there must have been 15 pugs there. 3 of them were ours. And it was just really a really sweet adventure. And the cool thing is we will be doing more of these. And in 2019, look for information on a Pigs and Pinot event. So we actually will have some real live pigs coming to join us for the event, and we are looking for a local winery to host that. So stay tuned. And if you're interested in staying in the know about the Pigs and Pugs events, you can do so at pigsandpugs.org. And join the newsletter. You'll find out lots of great stuff going on. And of course, you can always join in spirit if you can't be here in person. But again, I just want to say a big thank you. And the cool thing is, too, on Saturday, so I had gum surgery on Friday. I do not recommend it. It was not very fun at all. And so Saturday morning was yoga with pigs out at this pig sanctuary, Whispering Rise, that I love to visit. I was like, I hope I'm going to be okay, because I was in so much pain Friday. Well, Saturday morning rolled around. I woke up and I was a new person. And I think it was because of the knowing that I was going to see pigs. And granted, as the day went on, I began to wane and needed more pain medicine and what have you. But at least I was able to get out and see pigs and spend some time with them, which is always fun, and to do a little yoga. So it's been a really kind of adventure-filled past couple of weeks. And on Wednesday night, Tim, me, and the 3 Pugs are driving to Oklahoma to visit family. And it's a 22-hour drive. We're going to drive kind of nonstop, just alternating between Tim and I. And then we'll have 3 beautiful days with my parents in Oklahoma, and then begin the 22-hour drive back and be back next Tuesday, actually. So lots of fun things coming up. And in addition to that, whenever we get back, we have the virtual retreat happening on October 20th. And of course, you are absolutely welcome to join us for that. That is in a virtual event, and it's all about softening into fall. It's a 3-hour event from 12 to 3, and we'll be doing some art journaling. We'll be doing some seated yoga. So it's available and open to all. You don't have to roll out a yoga mat or have any experience. We'll also be doing some mindfulness. But again, all around this theme of the fall season, which to me is just absolutely magical, right? It's a lot about shedding, slowing down, tuning in, turning inward. So if you are available, would love to have you join for that. I'm also hosting a free 7-day detox that starts the day of the retreat. So October 20th through the 26th. And it would be a delight to have you join for that. Again, that is a free event, and you can find out all the information at KimberlyWilson.com/detox and sign up for it. I'm also hosting, this is really pretty much the last event, and I know there were just so many over this past month, but on October 27th, I'm hosting a writing salon, also in my office space, and it's just 2.5 hours of getting together and doing some writing together. I'll be doing some teaching. We'll be doing some kind of practicing and, really just a wonderful, sweet way to spend a Saturday afternoon in community and connection with others also interested in the writing practice. So what's cool is right now we are in the middle of Module 10 for Year of Tranquility. Actually, the start of Module 10, Year of Tranquility, and we are focusing on writing. And so it's just perfect to kind of host this kind of at the end of the month as a little wrap up to that. But also I wanted to get one more event in before I kind of get quiet through the rest of the year. There's really nothing else that I have that I'll be hosting other than, of course, Year of Tranquility. In November, we're chatting entrepreneurship. And this is not just for business people. This is for all of us who are seeking more productivity, more tips and tools for time management, things along those lines. So entrepreneurship, kind of this idea of being the entrepreneur of your own life. And then also in December, the focus is meaning. And then we wrap up, I can't believe it, an entire year, the program Year of Tranquility. And those of you who are podcast listeners and who have been joining me, thank you so much. It's really been such a treat. And those of you who haven't joined, and if you're interested, you can still join for the year. What it is, you get access to all the past materials. But if you're just interested in maybe the writing month, you could sign up now and you could just do the monthly piece. So there's 2 options, and you can find all that information at KimberlyWilson.com/YOT. Also tonight, I am finishing up our 4-week Tranquility Salon, the inaugural. And this week is all about mindfulness. So it's really been a delight to host this, to have this experience on Monday evenings with this amazing group of women. And the cool thing is I just think it helps set the tone for the week ahead. And this idea of really honing in and focusing on what it is that matters most to us. So I'll be doing another one in January, and you can apply for that. You'll find information at KimberlyWilson.com if you just click the Tranquility Salon button. And that'll give you more information. So I only have 2 retreats, by the way, lined up for 2019. And it's probably maybe all that I'm going to do, maybe a virtual retreat. I may add something kind of more local in there, but definitely this is it with international. I'm doing Costa Rica in February, an early bird discount. I think that ends November 1st. So if you're interested in joining us and you want to save a little bit, definitely check that out. And Costa Rica is a delightful experience. It's a wonderful time of the year to get away. I mean, February, the cold is brutal, and it's been dreary and not so sunny. And so it's really nice to go someplace where it is sunny and tropical and magical. And then, of course, we have Tranquility in Tuscany, and I have 8 spots left for that. And that's happening in July. So really looking forward to that. It's my second time leading a retreat in Tuscany, and this villa is just stunning and really fun day excursions and opera and wonderful vegetarian Italian cuisine. So if you're interested, check that out. Would love, love, love to host you. I think you'll find it to be a phenomenal experience. Now, without further ado, let's chat about Miss Ange. So she's the founder of HOLFit, a mama of 2, a holistic health and business strategist, and the host of the popular podcast, HOLFit Talks. She guides people to take ownership of their health and success and to do it through the engine of online community. Welcome, Angie.
Hello, hello.
I'm so excited to have you on the show. And as I was preparing for our interview, it was funny. I was looking back at my old emails and I was like, how far back do Angie and I go? And I found in 2009, I clearly had run a tranquility contest, which I do not recall, but I love the idea and I'm going to do it again, listeners. But it was like, show photos of you in tranquility, and you won because I think you sent like 6 adorable photos. And I think you were pregnant at the time.
I was.
And then in 2010, you reached out. And this is what I think is so powerful. And listeners, what we'll be talking a lot about is really kind of manifesting and bringing things forth and living your legacy now. So Angie reached out and she said, I'm currently, and this was 2010, I'm currently on maternity leave in a high-level management job that used to require a lot of my time and energy. Having this time away has given me the chance to really think about what I really want to be doing. I've always been very passionate about health and began yoga a few years ago. I relate to you in so many ways. I wanted to ask you, what advice do you have for me as I think about doing a complete overhaul professionally? I want to combine my love of being in service to others with my passion of health and yoga. So, Angie, take us from this email to me in 2010 to where you are now.
Oh, my word. What a fun way to open up, because I forgot about that actually. And I was thinking, I first want to say, when I came across you, and I'm not even sure how I first did, it was back when your podcast and book, were of the same name, Hip Tranquil Chick, right? And I came across that and I thought, that's me. She's talking about me. Like, it was just the right time in my life. And you were like a hug for my soul, when you were talking about making your joy list and buying yourself flowers and everything pink from your, what did you call it? Your pink palace or something, right?
Right.
I just loved everything you were talking about. And at that time in my life, like you were just reading that email, I was in such a state of transition. I had been working as an operations manager for a large corporation and was definitely hitting that glass ceiling for sure. I had been there for 10 years. I was making really good money and I was pregnant when I came across your material. And I was just about to have a mat leave. Here in Canada where I live, we actually are gifted a year of maternity leave, which I think should be a standard all over the world. You need that time just to really make that transition to becoming a mom for the first time. And there was so much being reborn in me as I was birthing a human, and I remember at that time, I just thought, well, what does the new script look like for me? Do I really want to go back to that life? And yes, when you're making good money doing something, it's the sensible thing to do for sure. But my soul felt tired. I felt like I was not living my purpose. I had more in me to give. And I knew I couldn't go much farther than I had, so I thought, well, what if I rewrote my story and launched what I have on my heart as a brand? And that's when I started HOLFit, was right around that time, 2009, 2010. And at that time I started blogging back when blogging was like the way to connect online, right? Now I feel like podcasting is almost the new blogging. But back then it was just, that was how I really found my voice and found my community and started to really serve with my gifts, which are really around living a holistic life, you know, upgrading your health and being vibrant and having all the success you want in life because of that foundation. And yeah, that was when it all kind of started for me. It was back in 2009, 2010, and it's surreal to think back to how much can change in like a 10-year period.
Well, and I'm sure a lot of our listeners, can relate to this. Not the year-long maternity leave. That's freaking amazing, Canada. Canada does that so well, but can relate to this idea of, I'm in a situation, whether it's a relationship or a job or, just something where it just feels like I've outgrown it. I'm ready for what's next, but what I'm in is comfortable, but yet not comfortable anymore for my soul. And so how did you take the step? Because, before we started recording, you mentioned that with your essential oil community, there's like 100,000 people. I mean, so it's like you went from, operations manager kind of, to creating this entire brand with a large following. And I just liked your page on Facebook and I'm like, oh my God, just 20,000 followers. So tell us about that, because that is not easy. And I know sometimes people can feel like, oh, this is overnight success. It's like, no, she sent me that email in 2010, right? This is 8 years later. And so, your trajectory is just like beautiful.
Thank you so much. I really believe that, when we talk about the work it takes to bring something to life, it doesn't matter who you are, where you are. We all have something in our heart that we are meant to create and we are meant to birth because of our life experience, because of the intersection of the pain we've gone through and the joys we've experienced, and just our story. All of our stories are so powerful when we think about it. And so I think we live in the best time ever to create a brand, a business, a community around what matters to us. And you've done this so beautifully. And for me back then, I remember thinking, well, it would be much more painful for me to go the next 20 to 30 years of my life not doing that it just, I could feel it. I could cast, I could see what that kind of life would look like, to not only be doing that, but be a mother at the same time. What would I be teaching my daughters? I have 2 girls now, they're 6 and 9. What am I teaching them if I'm not living my joy? I don't know. I just felt this like real conviction, like the time is now. And so the interesting thing is, you're right. A lot of people, when we fast forward 10 years and when we find people out there in the world that are doing work that really lands for us, like we're attracted to what they're doing and we want to do what they've done because they inspire us. It's easy to think through comparing ourselves that we could never do what they've done because it just appears like it's been this overnight thing, like you said. But I think that when you are committed to living your truth and sharing your gifts with the world, you will be willing to do the late nights and the early mornings. And it's one person at a time that you connect with, that you share with, that you guide in some way. Like we're all guiding each other, right? And it really is like one person at a time. And it's pretty crazy where it goes if you just stay the course and you follow those nudges. We always get those nudges along the way. That's like, what if you tried it this way? What if you did it this way? It's a lot of tweaking. It's a lot of failures. I mean, man, like you have to be willing to just follow that gut pull and be resourceful, because we can learn anything. I imagine you're very similar to me, because you've been building your brand for years and years and years. You Google it, you YouTube it, you figure it out, you figure out how to do a podcast, you figure out, all those things. We all had to kind of flop our way through to have what we have today.
I just love, though, with your email, it's like, I'm thinking about doing a complete overhaul professionally, and it's like, and there you have. So can you tell our listeners a little bit about what Whole Fit is? So whenever you got started, after you sent this email, and did you decide, okay, I'm not going back to work as an operations manager? Or did you go back to work for a little bit and moonlight, as I encouraged you, and always encourage people, in particularly if they don't have this, beautiful year-long maternity leave to, to just kind of dabble in things and see what they like. I'm just curious kind of how you got the momentum, because people wanting to make a transition like this, need that first kind of little push.
First, it was such a gift to have a year, because I often think if I hadn't had that, almost like a sabbatical in a way, to really map out what I was going to do, I don't know if I ever would have done it. So I know it's difficult if you can't take a break sometimes, and this is why, like what you do in your work, teaching people about working with the seasons, almost, working with that new energy, that break and the seasonal shift is so important to have that clarity and know what you want to create next. And so I'm super grateful that I had a year to do that, but I was also prepared to not waste any time. So I work with a lot of mothers, and I think that whether you're the mother of an animal or human beings or whatever, you become very good at managing your time because there's somebody else relying on you. And at that time, I would just really leverage whatever moment I could find during nap times, or I would stay up late, and I started to educate myself as much as possible. So I enrolled in holistic nutrition. I got my personal training certifications. I did already have my bachelor in health sciences at that time, but I wanted to really further my education. So at the time when I launched my brand, the name Whole Fit was a merger of holistic nutrition and living holistically and being fit for life. And I was doing a lot of personal training. I went on to lead stroller boot camps, which was super fun. With I would take these groups of moms through the park, with their strollers and their babe. And it was so fun and I love working with women, specifically mothers. And so that was kind of the merger of my passions at that time, was around plant-based medicine, living holistic, and being fit for life, not just working out. And because that at the end of that, we know that now, that's not true health. Just having a fit body doesn't mean that you're truly fit for life. So that was what the brand represented at that time. A couple years later, after working with people in person and coaching them in their health, I took it online, and I opened up sort of a health school online where I would take them through programs around eating and exercising and spiritual practices. And I did that for a couple of years. And then I started to integrate essential oils. I was somebody who was using them at the time contacted me saying, "Hey, Ange, I know you're all about the plant-based lifestyle and living holistic. I think you'd love working with these tools." And I had been using essential oils for a couple of years, but just very, very basic. Like, I know you love lavender, right? So like lavender in the bath, I loved doing things like that, but I had no idea really about how vast the world of plant-based medicine was. And so this was almost 5 years ago. I started integrating essential oils into my work, helping my clients and my friends and family start to overhaul little parts of their lifestyles to become more clean. And man, I don't even know. I mean, one thing led to another. There was a lot of curiosity at that time around what I was doing within my own little community at that time. And then it just started to grow from there. And I had I offered an essential oil class 4 years ago. And then I went on to teach about 400 of these classes in people's homes. I would just go into homes. I'd teach them how to overhaul their green cleaning chemicals, anything they were using in their home that was distracting their vitality and their health. We'd teach them. And just one home at a time, we grew this big community globally of people using essential oils really as their health care, not just in self-care, but really as their way of bringing their body back into harmony, into healing. And I love what I do today so much. Years ago, I loved creating recipes for people and creating workouts and helping people start to be inspired around that way of living. But this was the tool that was missing the whole time, just that way to bring it all together.
What's your typical day like now, since you do so many things?
Well, the majority of the work I do is online. So I run my business from home, and I have 2 girls, as I said, who are back to school next week. I do all my work between 9 and 3 when they're at school. So we have a community of customers, about 100,000 across the world I create various health programs for. I run quarterly detoxes and cleanse programs. And then I have a team of about 5,000 people who do the wellness side of this business with me. And so the leadership aspect of my work is probably what I love the most, just really helping. And to be honest, it's like 99.9% women are who I work with. So it's really helping women just own it and step into their light and work on their own healing and then offer that healing to the world. And I work with yoga teachers. I work with health coaches, stay-at-home moms. Really, it's endless.
You mentioned essential oils. So can we chat a little bit about that? So doTERRA has this darling introductory kit, which you sent to me, and I just love, which is lavender, citron, lemon, and peppermint. And listeners, I'm going to put a link in the show notes, which is something that I found is, and I believe it was on your website, 101 uses for the intro kit. So can you talk about maybe some of your favorites? Because you had most recently reached out to me about, using essential oils for migraines.
Yeah, that's right. I think I had read in a newsletter. I'm subscribed to your newsletter, and you had mentioned that you were having a tough time with that. I thought, I want to introduce you to this vast world, because that was my perspective years ago, is that essential oils are just nice smells. We can use them and I liked making my own things at that time too. And I dabbled for sure, but they're actually very effective tools for bringing our body back to a state of healing. And so the thing to first understand is that our body is always looking to heal itself. It's always working towards that goal of homeostasis. And there are things that we do in our lifestyle that distract it from what it's trying to do. And, the more that the more empowered you can be around it. And I think it's just this domino effect that happens when people start to look at, okay, let's say someone's entry is they don't want to take Tylenol anymore for their headache, right? So they look at, well, what would be a more natural way of supporting my body through that? The body is trying to heal whatever the root causes of that. And if you can use something like peppermint to calm the tension down as your body's healing, you're not costing the body energy through a side effect of taking a medication, right? So it's helping the body come back to the state it wants to be in. Maybe someone's entry is to eliminate harmful ingredients in their home. We clean our homes every day with something, and a lot of people don't realize sometimes the effect that something like a synthetic chemical cleaner has on their health. They don't sometimes make that connection between their respiratory health or the headaches that they have and the cleaner they just used in the kitchen. So it's really this way of area by area starting to clean up our life so that we are in alignment with nature and with how our body really wants to feel. At the core, our bodies are designed for us to feel amazing and to have clean energy. And there's just a lot of things that can distract from that. So I think real quick, I just want to review what essential oils are. And it is a huge industry today. It's grown so much in the last couple of years because of doTERRA. They are the largest essential oil company in the world today, but they're also the purest and the most tested brand, to the point that they're now opening up healthcare facilities with in-house doctors starting this year in the US to help people have a choice. So if and this would be in healthcare that you invest in. Here in Canada, where I live, healthcare is perceived as free. We pay a lot in taxes to include that, but we don't have to necessarily pay for our healthcare here. But there's a lot of issues there too. In the U.S., where the system is hurting a little more, a lot of the work that doTERRA, for example, is doing is to help really alleviate the burden on the healthcare system by helping people have more choices with their health. So essential oils, just to real quick review this, they're naturally derived aromatic compounds that come from plants. There are hundreds and hundreds of plants that make essential oils. Not all of those are going to be beneficial or therapeutic to our human body, but essentially plants create these aromatic compounds called essential oils to protect themselves and to also have the function of communication with other animals. So it's really the plant's central protection method from pathogens, from bacteria, fungi, various things. And so a lot of the properties that essential oils lend to plants, they also lend to our body, which is where a lot of research is happening right now, just around the antimicrobial benefits of essential oils. You know, whether you're talking about the superbug concerns out there today, or just simple ways of nurturing yourself and relaxing with something like lavender. The second thing I wanted to just share, because I think a lot of people will find value in this, because there's so many brands out there today, it's a huge industry now. You know, a lot of companies, I mean, you can go to the gas station or Michael's or Best Buy and find essential oils today. So it really begs the question, how do I know what I'm using? What's in that bottle? And I mean, years ago, we probably wouldn't have asked these questions because there weren't many brands available. But unfortunately, the essential oil industry is not governed by anybody. So much like the self-care industry or the beauty industry, the legislation around it is quite weak. There's nobody really saying you can't put that in that bottle. So with essential oils, you have to ask the questions of the company. And there's 4 things you want to look at. So the first thing is, where was it grown? So lavender, for example, which we both love, the best places in the world for lavender growth are France and Bulgaria. So when you are working with a plant that's grown in its native area, the health benefits from that plant are going to be the highest. So they're going to support the body in the best way. You can certainly grow, like I grow lavender in my backyard, but it's not going to have the same constituents that a lavender from France would. So where it's grown is important. The second thing is the company providing transparency around what is actually in that bottle? It's estimated that 80% of the essential oils in the world today that have the label 100% pure have actually been adulterated. So there's no labeling guidelines there. So you have to really do your research on a company before you start using it. And the reason I feel this is so important with essential oils specifically is they're concentrated. So if you have, if it's been adulterated and if there are synthetics in there that shouldn't be there because that company is looking to increase their profit margins, you're now taking a concentrated chemical, concentrated synthetic ingredient and putting that on your body or in your body. And now we have a pretty big issue. So companies that are of integrity will give you the testing reports on the essential oil. They'll tell you where it's grown. They'll tell you which third-party lab has tested this oil. They'll even go so far as to give you the actual, it's a GCMS report, which is a gas chromatography spectrometry report, which basically shows you, like lavender, for example, has over 100 different constituents in it. Isn't that amazing? Like we think, oh, lavender is just a nice smell, but it actually has hundreds of different ingredients, if you will. That'd be a good way to understand what the constituent means, which means it's like a chameleon in the body. It will work for sleep for sure. That's what we most know it for. It's great emotionally for grounding the body, but it's also like a Swiss Army knife because it is great for the skin, anything calming, any issues with the skin, because of the constituents it will support. So the testing reports will tell you what's in that bottle, and that's really important. And the last 2 real quick areas are who is growing that plant. So one of the things I love with doTERRA is they work with the farmers and the artisans around the world from over 40 different countries. And these are often families who have been growing lavender, for example, for generations. They are the experts in what they do. And before doTERRA created this very fair trade process with them, it's called co-impact sourcing. Before doTERRA, it was a little bit dark, to be honest. There were middlemen and brokers involved, which, cutting corners, adulteration happening, and the growers were not being treated fairly in this process. So that has really changed through a lot of the work doTERRA has done, which is amazing. But this essential oils, the last point to look at is you want it to be that the company's sole focus. What we see happening today is a lot of companies they do everything. It's like there's Walmarts everywhere now. When you look at a brand, they're not sticking to what they're good at. Which is why there's a lot of essential oil brands out there. Maybe their core product is makeup or skincare, and then they launch an essential oil line, and you have to really look at that. Well, how much do they care about quality and education and support if that's just one of the hundreds of things that they're doing? So, when you found a brand that has integrity around those four things I just said, now you're talking. You can really get to work with your healthcare. And the intro kit that you just mentioned, those 3 oils, lemon, lavender, and peppermint, they do so many things in our body. And I'll share a little bit more on that. But did you have any questions about what I just went on for 20 minutes on?
No, it's interesting because it's funny whenever you said like, initially there was just kind of like one brand or whatever. And I was thinking, Oracacia, is that how you pronounce it?
Yes, so that's what I started with.
Oh yeah. Cause I would just get those at Whole Foods, right? So I even have like a little lavender roll-on in front of me from them. But then, I've noticed over the years, there's so many. And so it is nice to know. I think also, and thank you for the pronunciation. I called it the wrong name. It's doTERRA.
Yeah, it's okay. My mom says doTERRA as well.
Well, it has the line above the O, which means it's a long O. So I should have known that. I just thought it was fancy. So doTERRA. But, no, doTERRA. No, doTERRA.
There you go.
Oh my God. Yeah. So, the thing is, there's an interesting piece, like, cause you even sent me materials, with this intro kit. And what I love is it's this idea about it being a lifestyle, right? Not just like, right, put this in your bath. Like that's what I love to do. Right. But it's, more of, as you're saying, like healthcare. So I just love this idea of it being more of like a lifestyle experience versus just like, oh, it smells good, which I know that, aromatherapy is more than that. But, I think that's why a lot of us are initially drawn to it.
Mm-hmm. I love that you just brought that up because this is a bit of the barrier to entry for people is it's an understanding of their current approach. What are they commonly reaching for in the moment when they're feeling tired? Is it too much caffeine? When they have a headache, is it too many Tylenols? It's thinking of your own method and then asking yourself if there might be a better way. And there's the switch has to flip because we don't even realize. I mean, I don't know. Is it like 30,000 of our thoughts a day are habitual? We don't even sometimes stop to question what we do or why we do it that way. So I think that is, what you touched on. It really is a lifestyle. And I always encourage people to just pick one little area, solve that, and then move on to the next. So, and everyone's different. Some people are looking for better sleep, higher energy, less pain, a better way to navigate their emotions and let emotions move through them rather than stuffing them down. And the essential oils are just powerful tools for connecting the body through those processes. So yeah, it is a lifestyle. Absolutely. There are days, I don't even think about what I do with them anymore because I made that a ritual, but I probably use about 20 different oils a day.
Yeah, it's funny because I have a diffuser at my office and I just use lavender. I mean, so those of you who are just like lavender lovers, you can totally do a lot with that. But 20 in a day that's amazing.
Yeah. I mean, whether we're talking about lemon in my green cleaners, lavender in the diffuser lavender is one of those oils that blends nicely with almost any other oil. So you'd actually love combining those 3 oils you have, the lemon, lavender, peppermint. That's actually a natural way to support somebody through seasonal shifts if they often react to the seasons changing. Peppermint, obviously, on its own for anything clearing, digestion, energy. I roll peppermint on my temples a couple times a day when I need to, shift gears. I have all the oils, obviously, but there's probably 10 oils or so that I rotate through in everything. And the one other thing I want to share is being a mom of 2 girls. My girls have never, outside of being born in a hospital, they've never been in a hospital since. And to me, raising them, I see them as my best teachers. Everything that I'm learning and applying in our life, I pay close attention to how that affects them and whether they benefit from it or not. And they're so healthy, and they're just, and I'm not saying that that's entirely about essential oils, for example. It's certainly a combination of all the things that we know are good for our health, like eating more whole foods and moving our bodies and having peace and love in the home. And but it's pretty. I mean, I have a lot of info out there about typical day in the life of what I do. But just like anyone else, I started small and just let it domino from there.
Well, and one thing too that you talk a bit about, of course, on your website is the idea of upgrading, from life design, focus, and productivity. So can you give our listeners a few of your favorite tips for this?
Yes. Okay. So I'm a huge advocate for taking one day a week. Sundays, that's the day for me to really set up a great next week. So I use my calendar for everything. And I always say to people, if you want to know what's important to you, just take a look at your calendar from last week, because what we're prioritizing in our life becomes our life. So if we want to write a new story, if we have goals for the next season, we have to calendar those in. We have to, make those a priority before all the other things. And so that would be the first thing I would say, is really get control of your time. It's entirely up to you. I think today we're just, man, I mean, we're overwhelmed with all of the commitments and the expectations of other people, I think is a big one, especially for women. Women, we tend to struggle more with letting people down. And I think we think that we have to, keep all the social things up, and we have to be the best mom in the world and the best wife and the best friend. And we lose ourselves in that process. So I encourage women to flip that around and honor their core priorities first with their time, and then fill in everything else if there is that time. And you speak so much about the importance of self-care, right? And I think years ago, we used to only think of that as a bubble bath, and I see self-care today really represented in our ability to say no to things that do not excite us or light us up anymore, and to have protective boundaries with our time. And it all starts there, really. If you can blueprint your time, if you can create a design for your life that feels good and stick to it, I think you're unlimited. Because often we spend so much time on things that really don't matter to us, right? And I mean, my kids, they're 6 and 9, like I said. We have them in no after-school programs. They're not in all the sports and all the music and all the things, because I know they're getting exposed to a lot of that at school. And when they're home, I want to be together. And I want, we try to live a very simple life in that sense. And that's why I said, working from home, I work from 9 to 3 and I shut her down. And I struggled with that for years when I was first growing my business, feeling like I had to always be on. And I just realized that doesn't get you anywhere. And if you own your own business, especially, I think the trap there is, you start resenting it because you feel like it runs you. If you're always on and always trying to be all the things and do all the things, and you got to reel that in. And I love the change of a season for doing that.
Yeah, it is a great time of the year in particular now to be like, okay, sometimes people say September's the new January, and I love that because it really,
so true. Yeah.
Right? It's like back to school time and get our new pencils. And, it's just like, it is a wonderful kind of reminder, I think, what you said about, okay, using Sundays to get clear on your week ahead. I totally recommend that. And then too, this idea of, really owning your time. Because sometimes we can feel like, oh, my life is all XYZ. And it's just so, it's just so like overwhelming. And it's like, well, we have a choice in that, and sometimes we don't feel that we have a choice. And that's where it's really hard. But it's like always helpful, I think, to take a step back and be like, is this what I wanted my life to look like or feel like or be like? And if not, what small shifts can I start making now? Like you did in 2010 by sending me that email and, beginning to contemplate change for yourself.
Yeah, right. Exactly. We have to start somewhere. I do think the toughest thing is letting go of the concern of what other people are going to think about the new direction. And the thing is, I think that there are people that are going to be in our life for seasons, right? And some of us need to do some of that reflecting around our tight circles. Are the people that I'm surrounding myself with challenging me to become better, or through how they live and operate? My small circle of my best friends, I love it when, we say no to each other, to go to things or whatever. Like, we're very supportive of each other, but in the simple act of just saying, I can't commit to that, for example, we are always teaching each other that we're prioritizing our own time in the most effective way. So that's a big one, I think, is just our close friends circle. Who was it? Jim Rohn, who's famous for saying you're the basically the result of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So sometimes things can look really good on paper with our pretty pens and our tape and all the pretty things. But when it comes to actually implementing it, I think that is necessary. Step 1 is to be prepared for people to give you pushback on the new way. And that's okay. That's happening for you, because some people, they're not meant to stick around the whole time.
Absolutely. And people don't like change. And so whenever you have a shift in your identity, it can be quite confusing to them, but it's about them. It's not about you. And I think that is one of the most important pieces to keep in mind as you continue to evolve and shift. And I'll give an example. I remember, in my initial yoga training, it was quite chill, a very chill practice, integrative yoga therapy, right? So super duper chill. And then my next training was Ashtanga. Okay. Night and freaking day. And so whenever I started teaching Ashtanga, a lot of my, integrative yoga therapy clients were like, what the hell?
Whoa,
and they did,
yeah,
whoa. They didn't like that. And I got it. I totally understood. And yet I was no longer just integrative yoga therapy. I was incorporating Ashtanga and integrative yoga therapy. So it's just one thing to keep in mind. And it's like, sometimes, it's important that they find the best fit for them. Or, it's important that, your friends or family remember that you're not just an operations manager. Now you have moved on and you're doing other things. Mm-hmm. And you don't have your traditional 9 to 5 or 9 to 9 as some people work.
So true.
Yeah. And that's okay.
Yeah, that's a great point. And you have to believe in yourself more than anyone else could. That's a big one. You really have to believe that if you're inspired around something, if something's exciting you personally and you have a feeling you're meant to move more in that direction, honor it, because it's a calling on your life. And of course, not everyone's going to agree with it because it's not theirs. So you got to find your voice. You've got to have the courage to design a life that feels good for you and to live that life and let people come around. Right. I mean, it's interesting. We all have a few experiences along the way where friends, acquaintances, whoever, they have opinions about what we're doing and they think, they're going to warn us. Right. And those very same people years ago that were giving me pushback and what I experienced at the time as judgment now are asking me how they can do it for themselves. So I think that if we really step into it and own it, as we've talked about, we will inspire people, even if it takes a couple of years.
Absolutely. And my last question for you is, the name of this podcast is Tranquility du Jour. So how do you find tranquility in your everyday? I'm assuming essential oils.
You know what? There's 3 things I do throughout the day. So yes, I love to take little shift breaks. And because I work from home, I'll usually work an hour at something and then I'll take a little break. And what I always do is I grab an oil or I put something new in the diffuser. I put music on and I dance. I'm like, I really feel like circulating that energy helps me go back into a task in a fresh way. So I grab those moments when I can, and I'm very driven. So I tend to really, work pretty hard at my work. I love it. I super love my work. So I think for me, it's mothering myself, and just really asking, what do I need in this moment right now? And I love taking moments of to express gratitude in some way throughout the day. I think the powerful practice is just having a system of when you're going to just shift. If it's on the hour or when you're done your work day, how are you embracing that next hour or end of day or start of day, having routines. And I love music. We just actually built a new home a year ago, and one of the things I love the most is we have speakers in every room. So we play music all day long. So oils and music and dancing, I think those would be my three things.
Beautiful. Thank you so much.
Oh, this is such a joy. I so appreciate everything you do. And I just, like I said, I just feel like you're just this warm presence in the online world. And I love the community you've created, just helping us find those little ways to increase our own joy. So thank you for that. Thanks for having me on.
So I have all sorts of ways that you can find Miss Ange. We've got Facebook, we've got Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, her podcast, and Pinterest. Again, all these links are easily accessible in the show notes, which can be found at KimberlyWilson.com/blog. And then also mentioned in the podcast, I have links to the Fall Tranquility du Jour Live that I hosted end of September. I also have a link to the fall sneak peek video for Tranquility, the Brunch at TranquiliT Trunk Show video, Pugs and Pints video. And then also, if you're not signed up for Love Notes, do so at KimberlyWilson.com/Love Notes. And then you get access to this treasure trove of all sorts of things, from PDFs to MP3s to videos. And I keep adding to it. So if you don't see something there that you would like, please let me know and I'll be sure to do so. And then, of course, you can learn more about mentoring if you are interested in mentoring or therapy. Both are options that I offer. And you can find out more at KimberlyWilson.com. So as always, you can find me on social media. My favorite is Instagram, but I'm also on Pinterest, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. So I'll try to do a YouTube video while I'm in Oklahoma. That will be entertaining. It's always fun to share kind of the Oklahoma experience, or even from the road trip, because that will be a journey. And I also have links in the show notes to Tranquility, my locally sewn, vegan, eco-friendly clothing line, my 5 books, e-courses, the Tranquility du Jour podcast app, and a piece about my passion for animals. So thank you as always for joining, for tuning in to Tranquility du Jour. If you have a moment to pin a review of this podcast on iTunes, would be so grateful. And if you have a moment to pin a review of any of my books on Amazon or Goodreads, would also be most grateful. And if you need anything in the interim, or you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, please don't hesitate to reach out. And I hope to see you at one of the few upcoming events, the last few of the year, and wishing you a delightful week ahead. Namaste.